Hello, and welcome to the Tidal Wave Games Podcast. There's no new episode of CU Space Cowboy this week, so we're presenting you with an interview with our editor and my good friend, Jensen Toperzer. We had a great time where we talked about Jensen's history with role-playing games in the industry, their intro to anime and early 2000s conventions, the complicated history of the System Shock license, Night Dive games, meeting Harlan Ellison, and more. See you guys next week with another episode of the podcast.
Trust me, that was, when I got back from Greece, that was me, basically. I was basically just sat around. It snowed, and I was, like, still in sort of a place of, what the fuck just happened? I sat around and played
crazy.
The fucking Final Fantasy MMO by myself. Like a loser.
I don't blame you. That sounds fun,
Yeah.
I just don't have the fucking time for it.
Oh, the MMO?
I say that as if I could, I could make time if I actually wanted to do it.
It's not, here's the thing, I just happen to like MMOs, and I was just looking for something, like, fun with the sort of, Square Enix kind of like, hello, it's about friendship and crazy-ass shit and stuff, and I was like, and I don't really want to get any, and none of the newer Final Fantasies were really appealing to me, and I'm not at the place yet where I want to replay the 7 remake, so, so I was like, you know what, my friend was like, hey, there's a free trial, so I started the free trial, and, like, the day after was when Square Enix was like, there's too many people on the servers, so you can't buy it, and no more free trials. So I was like, okay, that's cool. But I've been having fun, and it's funny, that game, because you really, like, the main plot, the first, like, expansion or whatever, it's okay. It's fine. You sort of go along, and it's like, this is MMO bullshit with some Final Fantasy flavor. Okie dokie. And then you hit, like, the first patch, and suddenly it's like, oh shit, you just killed those people.
Consequences.
Oh my god! Oh god! And then the MMO hero is suddenly on the run and accused of an assassination I did not do. Also, you cut that guy in half. What the fuck? And then shit continues to just keep getting real. And I was like, okay, the writing. I have to. It's up there next to Star Wars: The Old Republic in terms of, like, having the best writing of any MMO I've played.
Okay.
Now, that's damning with faint praise because, it's MMOs.
Right.
But both those games are actually really, Star Wars: The Old Republic, I like to say, it's a really good Star Wars BioWare game that they unfortunately glued World of Warcraft to.
Man, I miss BioWare.
I do too. The reason I'd been playing Star Wars: The Old Republic was actually literally, I miss BioWare, and it is nice if you just sort of play through each of the class stories as sort of a single player story. It really is just like, hey guys, it's old school BioWare. It's a lot of old school BioWare. Do you like old school BioWare with Star Wars? But then the problem that I ran into was that every time it was not, like, talking to other characters, it was, hey, did you like World of Warcraft? And I'm like, no, I didn't.
No, I didn't. Well, here's some of it.
I'm like, okay, it's World of Warcraft, but Star Wars, this is bullshit. I don't want to deal with it. Whereas at least, like, the Final Fantasy game's funny because it's kind of got a World of Warcraft-ish veneer, but the actual rhythm of the combat and the way it feels more like you're playing an older school Final Fantasy game with the active time battle going on.
Okay.
Like, it actually, like, it looks like WoW, but then as you're doing the inputs, it's like, wait a minute, this actually, and there's still stupid global cooldowns, but you're actually, like, and apparently someone told me that the first version of the game, like, the one that crashed and burned really hard, literally did have, like, the active time battle system. So they just sort of went, let's make it look WoW-ish, so that people stop bitching. But under the hood, it's still basically
like what they did with 5e.
Yes. Yes.
Let's just sort of take some of the good stuff from 4e, but then throw out.
Yeah, exactly. So it feels, honestly, some of it feels like Final Fantasy VI. Although I was really disappointed to hear that monks cannot suplex people, and they particularly cannot. There is a Doom Train boss fight.
Of course,
I was like, can't you suplex the Doom Train? And apparently, every single monk who gets to that fight immediately goes, and everybody has to go. Disappointing. Anyway, so we were just, was there something you actually wanted to talk to me about besides me bullshitting about the MMOs I've been playing? I could tell you about my trip to Greece.
No, we could, we're on the RPGs, that's a good kicking off point.
It is a good kicking off point.
Like, where did you,
did I introduce myself, even?
I was gonna do it in the intro.
There is that.
Well, where'd you get... What was the first RPG thing you did?
Holy crap. So if we're talking...
What's your first memory with it?
Of RPGs, period.
Yeah.
Okay.
Video or tabletop.
This goes way back. So one of my earliest memories, I was, I think, 3 or 4 years old, and my mom was like, hey, I think I must have been 4 because my brother, 4 or 5, my brother was like old enough to kind of walk and be but not really cognizant of being a human yet.
He's younger than you?
Yeah, he's about 3 years younger than me.
Okay. So
he was probably 2 or 3, and I was probably 4 or 5. Young, and this was back when we lived in like a teeny tiny house, back when the family was actually pretty poor. So the thing is that one of my dad's best friends was a freelance software developer, and he actually did contracting work for the government and for Microsoft.
Okay.
And he would just give us old machines to play with because he thought it was cool. So,
and what the hell's he gonna do with them?
Yeah, what the hell he's gonna do?
When you're in that field, you're constantly upgrading your shit to get the
right.
Shit
So
we
had like what for 89, 90. Where it would have actually, if my brother was born, it would have been like 92, 93. Okay. We had what was for the time like a pretty top of the line gaming machine, which is not saying too much.
Like an IBM, like a 486.
Yeah, it was. I believe almost. It was an IBM. My dad taught me this was before I could really read very well, but he taught me to use DOS because he was tired of me asking him
how to get on
like, I want to play the game.
How do I play Wolfenstein? Put Wolfenstein on it for me. Oh my god, you just type CD Wolfenstein.
Exactly, that was exactly it. So for me it was Ultima Underworld.
Okay.
And my mom, like, I'd sit on my mom's lap, and sometimes she would, like, even leave, and I would play Ultima Underworld, and my brother would play, too, sort of, like, he named the character, our character was named Guy. He was a guy. We were really bad at it. I wanted to make friends with every goblin, and you can make friends with goblins, but not all the goblins, and Mom kept trying to explain to me the circumstances in which it was possible, and I kept being like, I don't want them to shoot me. I don't think I got past, like, the second level, but... You know, I was having a grand time, and Mom also used to read fantasy books to me. And a couple of years later, I think I was 7 or 8, and so I'd read, like, my mom and dad read The Hobbit to me when I was that, like, I watched a lot of, like, cartoons, and I read other, like, kids' fantasy books, and then when I was, like, 7 or 8, I was doodling around we didn't quite have an attic, but we had, like, a crawl space in my, like, next to my parents' bedroom. So I'm doodling around in there. Mm-hmm. I find this box. And I'm like, this is a dope-ass box. Because it's got a big old red dragon on the cover, and there's like a fucking wizard and some guy with a bow. And I'm like, yo, what is this box? So I open the box, and it says Dungeons and Dragons. And I'm like, cool. So it turns out this was my mom's box set that she bought in the early 80s. It's the 1978 Blue Box edition.
I think that's Holmes, right?
Yeah, it's Holmes. It is. I was about to say. I think it's Holmes. Yeah, it was pre-Menser. I like the Holmes edition better. Menser's is not very good. Holmes is.
He's the third one, isn't he?
Yeah, Holmes is nice because Holmes still has this very like. It hasn't gotten full of itself. He's just a dude who's here to be like, hey, you know what's fun is sitting around with your friends talking about stupid shit. Mm-hmm. You know, he's the one who's got the famous first edition text that's like, if you don't want to play like a fighter or a wizard, you can make up like a Japanese samurai fighting man, a centaur, or a lawful good werebear. If you want to play. And apparently according to him, his original draft, one of his players, like one of his kids, wanted to play a Baelor. Like from Lord of the Rings. Right, like a fucking demon.
Like a Balrog.
Balrog. He was like, sure, you can play a Balrog. As long as you don't kill the rest of the party members, and this was a kid, so he was just like, I am fiery and evil, and whatever, I'm gonna eat that goblin, and it was fine. He wanted to put that in it, and it was in the drafts, but TSR said, we're already being accused of being Satanists, don't tell people they can play a demon.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to play, and unfortunately, I made character sheets for me and my mom and my brother, and then my little 8-year-old brain was not quite up to DMing, and my mom was just too busy. And Dad wasn't that interested, so. But that was, like, my first exposure to it. And I kept, like, every so often I'd, like, open up the book and I'd be like, oh, man.
And you would fantasize about playing the game, but never actually able to do it.
Never actually played, especially because, like, when I was 7 or 8 was when, unfortunately, my parents, we moved from, like, a lower working-class neighborhood to, unfortunately, an upper-middle-class neighborhood where everyone was dicks. And I had, like, I was not able to make friends. And, and when I got to high school, I made some friends, but they were all from the other high school. But that was when I was actually able to play D&D. Because while I was at camp, and at this time I'd also read, like, because I couldn't play the game, I read through all these D&D novels. There was, like, the Dragonlance trilogy and stuff. Ironically, I never read the Drizzt Do'Urden and R.A. Salvatore stuff, mostly because I just really liked dragons. So when people would buy me
presents...
So if
there's one that has dragon on the cover, you're gonna...
Exactly, so when people would buy me gifts...
Every one of these has dragons in the title!
Has dragon on the title, so that was the one that people bought me. Yeah, exactly. So, I've been reading those, and I get to summer camp, and this kid notices that I'm reading one of the books, and he's like, oh yeah, I love those books, and we get to talking, and I make some joke about, like, Takaisis always like, the evil queen of evil dragons always calling Raistlin the mage on like, the orb. They're sort of their Palantirs, the orbs of dragonkind.
Yeah.
And he's like, and him treating it like telemarketing, like where she's like, Raistlin, I can offer you great power for only... Click. So it turned out he lived, this was at a nerd summer camp up in Pennsylvania, and it turned out that he lived in Silver Spring, and I couldn't drive. I was your sort of typical queer kid, and I was like, driving is scary. Neither could Hamza. But, my parents were so desperate for me to, like, have friends. They were like, you want to go over to somebody's house and play Dungeons & Dragons? Hell yeah!
Yeah.
And what I remember about that was that Hamza's family is from Pakistan. And his mother would cook, like, these lavish feasts of traditional Pakistani
is he the friend?
Food.
Huh? That guy. I've seen...
Yeah, Hamza.
Okay. I've seen him on your posts because we're friends.
Yeah. So his mom would always make these, like, absolutely lavish feasts of Pakistani food. So that's also... Everybody else is like, yeah, Mountain Dew and chips, and I'm like, whoa... The naan, the homemade naan, and the like curried potatoes. Oh, it was so good. So I played a wild mage because I was like one of those, it was the early 2000s, and I was like a quirky like XD LOL.
Of course.
Random.
So the thing that gets to roll randomly.
Yes. So, and then like 3.5 came out and Hamza hated it and didn't want to play it. But when I went off to college, I met some cool people. I met other people. Patrick Stinson. I met Patrick and Jim Dyson and a couple of other friends of ours, and then we started regularly playing like 3.5 and a couple of other games.
Wait, you met college. Dyson?
No, not Dyson.
Oh, okay.
This guy's name, this is a totally different guy. He's a friend of Patrick's.
Okay.
He was Patrick's roommate. No, I've never met Dyson.
I was going to say, I don't think anyone's ever met Dyson.
Dyson is like 10 years older than me also. So. Yeah. No, this was just, the name is coincidental. So we played D&D in college, we played 3.5, and then when 4E came out, we all gave it a shot, and we're all kind of like, okay. I think 4E is a solid game. It just shouldn't have been, like, I go off on this all the time.
If they had released it as the new Chainmail and kept 3.5 in print, we'd still be playing it today.
We'd still be playing it today. Like, yeah. They might have then released what we now have as 5 as
yeah, it'd be a completely different landscape.
It'd be a completely different animal. But no, it was fucking Hasbro.
It's darker in here.
Fucking Hasbro. Not that, and to be clear, TSR was no better, and in fact was often worse. But I still put the blame on 4E's failure squarely at Hasbro's feet for being like, but we want to sell toys!
Yeah.
That whole edition was designed to sell minis, and...
That's true. I'm sure that was a component.
It was actually, I had a chance to actually talk to some of the people who made the decisions. I unfortunately can't cite my sources, so don't cite that, but from everything I've heard, it literally was, we want you to design an edition that will help us to sell toys, because we don't make enough money selling the books, and we're Hasbro, we sell toys.
Right.
We acquired this to sell toys. toys. We're Hasbro toys.
I'm waiting for the D&D toy line announcement in February 2023, preceding the movie.
No, I think they should revive the idea of a D&D TV show, which they already kind of have. Haven't they made a TV show of like Critical Role or something?
That comes out, but that's not sanctioned by Hasbro.
No, but I think if Hasbro is paying any fucking attention, they should have their own.
They should be. I think there's their own. I think G4 actually has like an actual play show right now.
And then and they could do an animated series based on it, and that if they put that on like the same sort of demographic that watches like the Dragon Prince,
dedicated Hasbro fan, I know a lot about the way this company operates, and they just shotgun out the license to anyone who says they can make something.
I know, it's depressing.
Yeah.
And then when they've got something that's like, dude, you will make so much money if you do the thing. There's a passionate fan base, and they really like it. They'll be like, but the corporate analyst said,
yeah.
The corporate analyst said girls don't like giant robots. The corporate analyst said boys don't like.
Canceled.
No, boys like ponies now, which means we're gonna now ignore the girls because girls are. We're Hasbro.
It's a train wreck.
So around grad school was when I started to actually get into the sort of professional side of things, because Hamza got into the and I'm gonna do the disclaimer. At the time, the old school Renaissance community was not full of neo-Nazis. It was full of Zac Smith, but we didn't know what a fuckhead he was, because and especially Hamza and I and a couple of our other friends, he very specifically groomed us. He figured out that we were not gonna tolerate him abusing us very early on, so he was like basically grooming us to be the queer people of color, queer in my case, people of color in Hamza's case, and a couple of our other friends, like the marginalized people he could point to be like, oh, I'm friends with them. I can't possibly be a complete fucking sociopathic shithead. The same way that he liked to hide behind the fact that he's ethnically Jewish, he's like, I can't possibly be a total asshole because I'm Jewish, and it's like, hey, guess what? Although it does, and especially because it muddies the point, because a lot of people would accuse him of being a neo-Nazi, and I'm like, he's definitely not that. He is a lot of horrible things, including, but he is not a neo-Nazi, and if you accuse him of being that, you're just giving him fuel to defend himself.
Right.
So at the time, we were not aware of like just how much of a shithead he was. At the time, he was just like a weird, kind of abrasive dude who wrote edgy but genuinely fun D&D stuff. Like for old school D&D.
Mm-hmm.
And the other people I played with, like Dyson Logos was part of that community. I didn't really play with him, but he was part of the community. This guy named Zach Martz Weber is a standout. My dear friend Ronaldo Mandrian, who's really cool. Someday he's going to publish. So we can feel bad all we want about how long it's taking us to get See You Space Cowboy out, but you're not Break. Yeah, exactly. You're not Break, which has been in production since 2011.
Right. That's a long one.
It's still coming along, and it still looks like a great game. And I played it. It's great. I had an edgy sword guy who was sad.
That seems like your type.
Yeah, that's true. God damn it.
Sad sword guy. That was the elf you played in my.
That was the elf I played, and now I'm realizing that the only thing that Spanx doesn't have is a sword. He doesn't want a sword. And I don't always play those people. Sometimes I play people who are doofuses. Or funny.
Right.
But for some reason, whenever I'm around you, I end up playing edgy sword guys. So... Anyway... and that was when I started doing some freelance work, because, like, the stupid Lamentations of the Flame Princess people were always looking for copy editors and freelancers, and I, like, got some chances to do a little writing and do a little work there. And then I get my chronology confused, because that was when I had my beginning of my horrible mental health issues, which we won't get into, but some shit happened. After I got out of grad school, shit was very bad for a while. I really had a lot of trouble holding down any kind of job whatsoever, and while I was bouncing around, I got, I did some freelance gigs. I did a little adventure for, EN Cider, the sort of Insider 5e, N-World 5e magazine called, Dia de los Dinosueros Muertos, which was sort of a Mexican... Yeah, it's a Day of the Dead Mexico zombie dinosaur attack. It's cool. Not very well balanced because I'm not actually very good at balancing things, and I just want zombie dinosaurs. Shut up. But I had fun with that, and then I did a lot of work for this company called Adventure a Week. They needed a layout designer, and I went, I know how to use InDesign, and they were like, great, sure, do stuff. And I learned a lot working for them. And eventually I just got a little burned out, like around 2019. I just really needed a break from that, and so I still freelance a little bit, but I haven't really been back in it for a while. But that's me, is that I sort of walked into it backwards by accident, and did a lot of stuff, and as the shit really hit the fan with the revelations about Zac and the Lamentations crew, that was when I was like, nope, not involved in this shit anymore. Fuck these people. Every time Zac tries to sue someone for saying that he's an asshole and completely falls on his face, I laugh. It's funny every time.
You definitely should.
And he keeps doing it! It's like...
Yeah.
Anyway, enough about that guy. So, I also briefly did some freelance work in 2020 for Ubisoft? Or was it? No, 2021.
Was it this? Yeah, it was this year. Because
it was 2020. It was spring 2021. Unfortunately, I still can't talk about it because I don't even know if the project is happening. But I did it!
Welcome to video games.
Welcome to video games. Welcome back to video games. My current job's trying very hard to make sure I never work in video games again by basically being like, we'll treat you like a human being.
Ooh.
And I'm like, ooh, yikes. So we'll see, but I still like video games, unfortunately.
Of course,
who
doesn't like
video games? And I still like tabletop games, obviously. Other games, I've played Paranoia XP, I've played a bunch of World of Darkness crap, played some Shadowrun.
Yeah, we both missed the World of Darkness revolution.
Yeah, we did. Young. I played some of it in college, but our storyteller was a fucking dickbag. I really hated speaking of Zac Smith characters. What an asshole!
I have a theory that the people who were running World of Darkness stuff in the 2000s were the people who were left. Everybody moved on from the community except these people.
Yeah.
The people who were still clinging to it.
There's still some good World of Darkness stuff that comes out. If I recall, the Onyx Path people actually write some good stuff. But the IP has gotten so fucking tangled in other bullshit, and anytime anybody's trying to bring back anything that they're calling White Wolf is that's the Nazi guys. Nope. Yeah, I missed it. And the thing about World of Darkness is that there were things about it that were cool, and there were things about it that were just it's funny, I play these sad sword guys, except that it's I like playing sad sword guys in a world that's not quite so...
brutal?
Fucking depressing. Where, every World of Darkness game always felt wow, so there's nothing we can do about anything, and everybody's gonna be sad and then die.
Where do we go from here?
Right. Whereas... in other tabletop RPGs, when I do end up playing a sad sword guy, it's instead this is somebody who is maybe a little beat up about the world, but they're gonna keep trying anyway. Maybe despite themselves, but they're gonna keep trying anyway because despite everything, they still do have some belief that it can be okay, and because it's the other kind of game, it can be okay.
Right.
That was actually an interesting thing between World of Darkness and Shadowrun, and actually Shadowrun and a lot of the other cyberpunk RPGs. And it's something I actually like about Shadowrun that I think a lot of the hardcore cyberpunk people don't. Is that Shadowrun can be very, very bleak. It's a cyberpunk game. There are horrifying megacorporations, except that Jeff Bezos is a dragon.
We don't know that he's not.
It'd be a lot cooler if he was. Maybe it wouldn't actually be that cool.
No.
It would be kind of annoying.
It'd be terrifying.
I don't know if it'd be terrifying. It would definitely be annoying. It would be right, and now he's a fucking dragon too. Dickhead.
Yeah.
But the thing about Shadowrun is that even though the corps tend to, win overall, there's still a sense that you can still make small victories. You can make victories for your community and your own people in your own survival. And it's clear sort of from the state of the world that the corpse cannot win forever simply because it's like they will drive themselves extinct first. Mm-hmm. And it's sort of almost that sort of solar punk, hope punk thing where it's like, it is entirely possible that, yes, they will leave vast swaths of the world uninhabitable, they will do horrible things, but eventually they will destroy themselves, and there will still be people around to pick up the pieces.
Right.
And it's a matter, and the people on the ground, it's a matter of surviving and making sure there are still pieces to pick up, and that's where the real meat of the story is. And those are the kinds of stories that I really prefer, is where it's not just like, oh, the world's really fucking shitty and bleak, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's, the world's really fucking and shitty and bleak, and you're not going to change it overnight. You're probably not going to change the status quo at all, but there is hope for you and yours, and there are little spots you can fix things, which I think our game does as well, because I think that's a fundamental part of Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah, it's about getting your own shit together in the face of the world crumbling around you.
Yeah. Which is also, I think, the theme for our times. Really,
isn't it though? So where'd you run into Cowboy Bebop?
The same way most people of our generation did, which is that I came home from school and, or not, was it, it would have been Adult Swim.
Yeah,
it would have been later in the evening. It was. But
you were already locked in on Cartoon Network, right? Because of the Toonami and the...
Yeah, my brother and I, we would, like, come home and we'd watch fucking, Yu-Gi-Oh! We didn't like Yu-Gi-Oh!, but it was on.
Right.
And Yu-Gi-Oh! Was, like, funny to watch. Well, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was, like, funny to watch, you know? You'd watch it and you'd be like, this is so fucking stupid.
Dude, when I was, my summer between high school and college, I had a relative who was, like, in hospice care, and, for a reason, I didn't know her very well, but she was like extended family. She was somebody else's mother, and for for logistical reasons, neither her son or the wife could be in the house during the day. They both had jobs, and they were doing a whole bunch of stuff. So basically, they, like, just paid me under the table to hang out with her for a summer from, like, 6 a.m. to, till 5, right? And so, and every morning, I'm there at 6 a.m., I'm getting dropped off by my dad. It's the summer, the house is stocked with food, and she's an old lady. She's asleep. She doesn't give a shit. So I'm just watching Yu-Gi-Oh! At
watching the fucking Yu-Gi-Oh! Marathons on Toonami. Yeah, and we'd also watch Jackie Chan Adventures.
Good show,
of course. And Samurai Jack. And I remember.
Did you watch the new season?
Of which, Samurai Jack?
Yeah, the new one.
I haven't had a chance. I don't watch TV.
Me either.
So
I need to. I hear it's good, except for the ending.
In one of my various attempts to, like, try kind of to make friends. Well, also I spent a lot of time on the internet at that time. I hung out on, like, the Bob and George forums.
Oh, Bob and George.
Bob and George. That was my introduction to Mega Man, by the way, because my parents. This is so weird. My mom's, like, letting me play Ultima Underworld and, like, Wing Commander at age 5. But for some reason, she was totally against the idea of buying a game console, and she said it was because they were violent, and I really think it was just because she didn't want to buy, like, we didn't actually have the money for it, and they didn't want to buy another electronic device. And I think that because when I was in high school, I finally, like, I saved up my allowance for, my brother and I pooled our allowance for, like, a year to buy a PS2, and convinced our parents to let us buy a PS2, because my dad was like, this Kingdom Hearts game seems interesting because he really likes Disney shit.
Right.
And ironically, I just wanted to play Mega Man and Final Fantasy VII, but then I played Kingdom Hearts and I was, like, really, really hooked. Really badly hooked. I still played, and I played a lot of Mega Man ROMs on my computer.
Of course, because that's what we all
like
did.
You do, because it was the early 2000s. Kids these days, man, they just do not pirate like they used to. I'm telling you. Part of all that, hanging out on the internet at that time, and also sort of vaguely being adjacent to the anime club at my school by virtue of just, and I didn't actually like any of those people either, but they were, like, less actively mean to me than other people. That's how I found out about Bebop, is that people were like, hey, all over the internet forums at the time, it was like, this is the best show ever, holy fucking shit, and you gotta watch Cowboy Bebop, blah, blah. So that was how, and I watched it on Adult Swim. I think if I didn't watch it on Adult Swim, then I was watching torrents or on YouTube or something, like the old days of YouTube when you could watch
in episodes broken up into 3 parts
where they're like
that were 6.5 minutes long, and yeah.
Yeah, that I still don't even, it's one of those things I don't even quite remember how I came across it. I think my brother was also the one who was like even more into it than I was, and it's also probably why I don't remember individual episodes very well, but I remember it. This was also around the same time that like one of my friends dragged me to Otakon when I was dressed as Kenshin. I loved Kenshin. My hair used to be
super duper in.
Yeah, my hair used to be a lot more red, but you've seen that, and I used to be able to sit on it when I was in high school, so like I just had my own hair and made my own costume and went off to Otakon and got immediately abandoned by the people I'd gone with and sort of wandered around the convention center going,
Which year was that?
2003?
2003. Oh, so you'd been going way longer than I did.
Yeah, and I remember it was also...
was 09? 09 and 10, and even by then it was already like way too overwhelming.
It was way too overwhelming even back in 2003. Like it was already a big con. It didn't get as, although 2009 2010 was really when it was like holy crap, what the fuck. But even back in 2003 it was a lot. I liked the Otakon LARP people. I have stupid stories about that, but that's going to be a whole other tangent. So that was how I was introduced to it, and I remember also the other anime at the time. Like I said, there was Kenshin, Outlaw Star, and Trigun.
Trigun, for sure.
You know, the typical. And I was also introduced to Inuyasha, the manga, at summer camp. The same summer camp I met Hamza, because somebody had left him out on the common room table, and I was like, what is this? I really like. Oh, who are these? Who are these? They're very pretty. And that was like for me, like the whole gender thing was like looking at Shishomaru and I'm being like, I want to be like that. I want to be tall and intimidating and ambiguously gendered and like just sort of grump at people.
That are your life goals.
I didn't succeed at any of those things except being like.
As long as you're trying.
I'm trying. So that was how I got introduced to Bebop, and Bebop it's just a good show. And then I remember years and years later when Samurai Champloo came out, my brother and I watched that, which is also a really good show.
I have never finished it.
I don't think I've ever finished it either. I think I got through a bunch of the episodes and then I had shit to do, but
I every time I started, I'm like, this is gonna be the time, and then about halfway through, I just fall off. Like, I have other shit to do. I don't know what it is, man.
I don't either. Shrug.
Yeah. They can't all be magic winners.
No, but it's still good, and I still think what I liked is that it had a lot to say about various marginalized communities in Japan, which most Japanese media won't talk about.
No.
I could talk about some of the stuff I've done with video games besides the Ubisoft thing. I worked at ZeniMax Online Studios on Elder Scrolls Online. That was brief. It was only about 6 months. I was like grunt shovelhead QA. They took my labor and then chucked me out the door. No hard feelings. Video games is a terrible industry. Don't ever work there. The other thing I've done is I've worked with.
Go ahead.
There's a group called Night Dive, a company Night Dive Studios.
Oh, I know Night Dive.
Yeah, I love Night Dive. So I've done a lot of work with Night Dive in the past. Mostly writing work where I've interviewed various people who worked on games that they restore. My favorite interview I got to, for their recent System Shock remaster, I got to interview Terry Brosius and a bunch of the other devs.
Is that
great.
It's
in there. Yeah, it is. I have Hey, you want to see my cool fucking box?
Yeah. Oh, dude, that's it.
Oh, and because Stephen Kick is a cheeky little man. So, and what's inside? Let's see. We've got We've got a little cyber zombie
Is
man.
this new, or?
Huh?
Where'd you get this?
They gave it to me.
Oh, they just sent it
I
to
got
you?
it. Yeah, Stephen Kick, the CEO, I started to get to know him when he first got the company off the ground, and it was a crazy random happenstance. I had been working at Wired magazine at the time. I don't remember when I saw, but I saw that he was working on, the very first thing he did was working on getting the System Shock license back so they could at least put it on Steam. And they didn't quite get the license back.
Yeah, because it was out for you couldn't get it.
Yeah,
for the
so the
longest time.
story behind that it's crazy. So there's a finished unboxing, his little emblem thingy.
Oh, that's super cool.
It's got the grating texture on the back,
Oh,
like the floor grate texture. You can use it as a stand for the little guy. And then I can't quite get it.
that's
out.
like a super ultimate version of like an old PC big box.
Yeah, that was the idea, because Night Dive is all about restoring old PC games, and he was like, I want there to be feelies. I'm gonna give you really good feelies.
Yeah.
And this is not a
Not Watchmen.
It's not Watchmen. It's a System Shock thing, I think. I don't know why you'd put a Watchmen thing in the box.
No.
But the funniest part is the game itself.
Oh my god.
It is not actually a floppy disk, though. So I can't slide the thing. What it is...
It's a USB?
Yes, it's a micro USB. I'm having a little bit of trouble. There it goes. So you flip this out, and it's a micro USB.
That's great. That's amazing.
But I love it because it's like,
yeah,
check out my
it's
special
a save button.
Yeah, it's a giant 3D printed save button for some reason. Isn't that wild, man?
Why is that?
Yeah, I met I first started talking to him online, and and the subject came up that I'd just left my job at Wired and I needed work, and he said, "Hey, you write? Can you do some interviews with various people?" And that was also how I got to interview Harlan Ellison for I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, that was incredible. Harlan said I was a very intelligent young lady and that he enjoyed talking to me, and I was like, ha, ha, ha! Harlan Ellison said I was cool. That man never says anybody's cool. And I really, every time I work with Steven, it's, what impresses me about him is that every so often I'm afraid that he's going to turn out to be like some kind of horrible tech bro. Like when NFTs started being a thing, I was like, oh my god, Steve, don't get into NFTs. And then all of his tweets were about how stupid NFTs were. And he's like, fuck NFTs, this is bullshit. And I'm like, thank god you're still cool. Because what I like about him, I've only interacted with him really in a professional context, but what I like about him is that he really just seems to be a guy who just is genuinely he likes old PC games and he wants to see them restored. That's his entire thing. And he especially likes System Shock, but I like that he's also, parlayed his company into not just being the System Shock guys, but into, doing a whole bunch of other remakes and remasters.
Yeah, I mean, he hired Kaiser from the Doom community when he was doing, the Doom 64, PC fan port, and he was like, why don't we just make this official?
Yeah, and again,
now that engine runs all the N64 ports like Turok and my favorite, Shadow Man.
Shadow Man, Shadow Man just came out, didn't it?
It did. It's dude. Do you know you played Shadow Man?
No, I never played Shadow Man.
Oh,
I didn't.
it,
I told
dude.
you I didn't have 64.
Yeah, dude, get it.
Okay.
It fucking rules. They restored cut bosses that didn't ever exist.
Steven seemed to be really jazzed and really proud of that one in particular. He was really hype.
Yeah, there was a moment I was playing through it the first time, and I'm like, oh, I remember this level. Okay, I got it. And then I dropped down a hole, and there was a boss that I had never seen before. And I'm like,
what the fuck is this? Yeah, and we'll see. It's also, the other thing that I find interesting is, I think that his work on the full remake of System Shock 1 would have sunk another company. But what's nice is that, the community seems to be it'll take as long as it takes, and they just keep plugging away at it, and it'll happen when it happens, but...
Good.
I do feel really bad, though. It was... So, from what I understand, so the whole story behind the fucking System Shock IP. I will try to tell it as shortly as I can, but it is weird as hell. So Looking Glass Studios was always, the original company, was always just really bad at managing their finances, and they were good at making games and bad at basically everything else. Marketing, all of that. And so in an attempt to get money, and to like make themselves at least kind of sort of profitable, they ended up selling the company to a military contractor. Because the military contractor was like, oh man, the video games are the new, like, thing, and these guys made some flight simulators. Well, let's see where it goes. And where it went was, nowhere. And the military contractor then chopped up the company and sold it all off in pieces. And the crazy weird at auction. So the crazy weird part. The name System Shock was available, like, that just sort of floated around, available for a while. And eventually eventually EA Games went, oh, we're gonna buy that right up. Hell yeah. And then, when EA Games started working on it, all of a sudden, Star Insurance, aka MedStar Insurance, went to EA and went, hey, you can't do that because we own the asset rights. And EA was like, what the fuck? And it turns out that for whatever fucking reason, like, when this military contracting company had actually chopped up a whole bunch of other smaller, different software companies and sold, like, chunks of their IPs off in auction. And for whatever fucking reason, MedStar Insurance bought the chunk that included the asset rights to System Shock. Now, what the asset rights are is not the name, but everything else. That's like the characters, the setting,
the
et cetera,
stuff that makes up the IP.
Right. So they're like, you can't, and so EA goes, we're EA Games. We'll offer you, like, EA Games money to give us this.
Yeah. And
Star Insurance went, fuck you. And EA Games went, we will offer you more EA Games money. Do you know who we are?
Yeah.
We're gonna offer you, like, a fuck ton of money. And Star Insurance went, we think that we can make money off of this somehow. We don't know how, but we don't want to give you money. And EA Games went, well, now we've got all these
you're interested in it. so there must be some way to do it.
We've got all these, like, space horror assets we'd already started working on the expectation that this would be easy. So we're going to make a game called Dead Space instead. So that's how Dead Space happened. Oh. It was literally that Star Insurance said, you can't have the System Shock rights, and EA went, and everybody went.
And I bet that EA System Shock game probably either wouldn't have been good, or it would have been just Dead Space.
Would have been just Dead Space. Honestly, it would have just been Dead Space, and because I think that they ended up reusing a lot of, like, the concepts that they had. So I was like, this wouldn't have been a good game. Right. It would have been a fine game, but it wouldn't have been System Shock, and everybody would have been mad. So I kind of dodged a bullet there. So years later, ironically, one of the ways that Steve and Kik and I became friends/bonded is that both of us had ended up playing the System Shock 2 in a foreign country while we were depressed. I was playing in Japan while I was studying abroad, and he was, like, in the mountains of Argentina on, like, a really shitty laptop in a tent. So, and we were like, what is it about being fucking depressed in a foreign country alone with no internet that you're like, I'm gonna play a horror game in space? That's a great idea. And he's thinking to himself, why hasn't anybody made a remake of this? So he starts investigating and discovers all of this nonsense. And he then founds Night Dive and he goes, I think I can get these rights. I think I can make it work. So, and he also, in general, goes, and I'm also really devoted to restoring old games. And so I'm going to restore some weird, old, obscure shit that nobody else gives a shit about, because I think it's cool.
Right, because you can't found a company on, I'm going to remaster and remake System Shock. You have to do other stuff to pay the bills.
Yeah, so, like, that's his long-term goal, but he also does a bunch of other things. Like, there was a thing called Roach Game? I forget the name. It's a weird adventure game that is literally Kafka-esque, where the protagonist turns into a roach and you have to, like, solve puzzles. And the puzzles are about how fucked up this guy's life is.
Neat.
It's a thing, man. There was also, I have on my stream, there was also, like, I think Wizardry and a couple of other ones. But so he goes to Star Insurance and he's like, hey guys, I don't think that these assets rights are really, like, doing much for you. And they go, we turned down EA money, what makes you think you're gonna get it? He goes, hold on. What I'm gonna do is, you let let me contract with you. You let me re-release this game on Steam and GOG, and you'll get all of the profits from it. You can have the money, and then we'll revisit this. And they're like, yeah, this is finally the opportunity we've been waiting for.
This is what we wanted. Somebody to give us money, to give us more money.
And so he does this, and it sells decently well for an ancient title, cult title that. And then he turns around and says, "So, are you guys pleased with the amount of money you're making?" And they go,
we could have had EA money.
Yeah, so when you said that this was an old IP that wasn't likely to make any more money, and when EA said that to us, we did not believe them.
But now we believe you.
Yeah, fuck it. Take it and leave. And he's like, all right, bye-bye. So then, because Steve Tick is a sweetie pie who believes too well in people, he turns around and he gives it back to Warren Spector. Was it Warren Spector? And I think, who is it behind?
Warren Spector's the Deus Ex guy, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm gonna look up the company. It's called Other Side Entertainment. Other Side Entertainment. Paul Neurath. That's who it is. So Paul Neurath, and they have a second studio in Austin, Texas, led by Warren Spector. They are developing System Shock 3. So what I heard about them, they're still working. So just speaking of the terrible luck and terrible business decisions, in 2020, Tencent acquired the rights to develop the future System Shock titles.
Yeah, they just bought out Turtle Rock, too.
And I'm like, it's the Chinese EA! So that's that ridiculous-ass story. So, Now, granted, Night Dive still has, I believe, the rights to develop the remake of at least System Shock 1, and I think they might have the rights to do System Shock 2, but I'm not sure. And I know that Other Side still has the rights to System Shock 3, but then Tencent is reserving the right to make any spin-off games or further sequels, or your fucking, I don't know, goddamn cell-phone Farmville space station horror game.
Well, some people need jobs.
I can't talk too much shit about Tencent because, we were all, they bought a significant chunk of Digital Extremes that makes Warframe, and we were all a bit like, and then they proceeded to actually not do very much. We were all terrified they were going to be like, microtransactions. Yeah,
I've heard a couple people say that their company got bought by that and things didn't really, nothing. Yeah,
changed. It hasn't, I still am sort of sitting here like, I don't know what they'll do with the IP itself later on. There's one thing between we bought this and now we're getting, we invested in your company to give you a cash injection and now we're gonna, sort of just sit on your IP and herf derf, we're gonna make Dead Space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've never played Shadow Man. What's it about even? Something about Egyptian nonsense?
No, absolutely not.
No.
It's actually the African stuff.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not Egyptian at all. It's they use the word voodoo a lot. Egyptian... I don't know if that's PC anymore.
Whatever. So it's a story. I literally know nothing about it other than the title.
So all right. So you know comics, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Like comics history.
A little bit.
You know Jim Shooter?
Video game. I know what?
You know Jim Shooter?
I've heard the name, but I can't remember.
Long story short, Jim Shooter decides to send in a script for Legion of Superheroes when he's 15 years old to DC in the 60s and gets hired. Right?
Hey, it's a good hustle if you can get it, man.
And so he writes Legion of Superheroes for a decade or something like that, right? And gets into the business off of the back of that. In the 80s, he becomes Marvel editor-in-chief. When he started the EIC job, they had 46 books, and 23 of them were late. Right? So he says, alright, fuck this. We gotta, every book comes across my desk, and I will personally fix it before it goes out. He gets the whole track, everything's on schedule, everything's great, but he's kind of a dick about it.
Kind of a dick about it. That's,
right?
Yeah.
So some people work to oust him, and then And he knows at the time that Marvel is looking to sell, right?
Right.
And he knows how much they want because he's the EIC, right? So he gets some investment capital guys together and is like, this is how much they want for it. And so basically they fire him, and a couple weeks later he walks in being like, hi, I'd like to buy your company. Right? And they say, actually we've just sold to these other guys for like 0.5 mil more than what you're offering. But now he's got all these investment capital guys who believe in Jim Shooter. So he's like, all right, fuck it. Let's just start our own company then. And he founds Valiant Comics, who did the old Nintendo comics and the WWF comics. And then he starts the Valiant universe in the early 90s by buying up the old Gold Key licenses like Solar Man of Adam and Magnus Robot Fighter and Turok, which we all know, right? And
yeah,
he creates a couple
ironically,
guys.
I don't know a lot about the Turok games, but I know those are games.
He's a Native American guy who shoots dinosaurs.
Yes.
That's
okay.
it. There's not a whole lot to it.
So some of what I remember is that some people have described like Horizon Zero Dawn as being almost a spiritual successor.
It's a
and that
little
you're,
bit.
Like, you're except that you're in the future and you're a girl and you shoot robot dinosaurs.
Yeah.
You know.
But so Shadow Man is one of the new characters that he creates. He's this guy who at night he hangs out with this this hundreds of year old voodoo priestess from Africa who like can call upon spirits of like African gods and shit like that, and imbues it into this mask called the Mask of Shadows that he wears as like his superhero costume, and he's like a jazz musician, and he beats the shit out of, punkers and bullshit like that, and he gets involved in like this crazy shit. But so that's the first Shadow Man. Right around when this guy gets started, Jim Shooter gets ousted from Valiant because he's kind of a dick about how he runs the company, right? And so that's where he exits the story. But so Shadow Man runs and runs until in the mid-90s, Acclaim says, hey, what if there's this Valiant company, got all these comic book properties. They're not Marvel, they're not DC. What if we just fucking buy that company and make video games based off of them, right? And that's what they did. And so they made Turok, they made Bloodshot, which just got a crappy Vin Diesel movie made out of it. Because then Acclaim went out of business and someone else bought the rights and this, that, and the other thing. But they relaunched Shadow Man with like is it Garth Ennis? Yeah, it's Garth Ennis and Ashley Wood doing the art. And they redid the whole thing, and it's like super late 90s, super brutal like art style, and like we're talking the peak of like 90s edgelord stuff, because like now he's like instead so like the voodoo priestess lady Nettie puts the Mask of Shadows in his ribs because it's the 90s. You can see it right there on the cover art.
I mean, it's the 90s!
It's the 90s, right? And, and so he says damn and shit a lot because it's the 90s. And he's basically reboot him as Samuel L. Jackson. Right? And so...
do you know that Samuel L. Jackson totally would have, like, starred in a Shadow Man movie if they'd ever done it? He would have been like, didn't shit.
He'd have been right. He'd be like, this motherfucker looks like me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the game is super weird because it doesn't tell you any of the backstory from the comic. It just kind of assumes that you've read it and know what's going on, right? Because it throws all this these arcane mechanics, because like in the comics he can go between live side, which is the world of the living, and dead side, which is the world of the dead. And at night he turns into Shadow Man in live side and can fight criminals and do all sorts of bullshit. And so he's in dead side, and the opening cinematic sets this up. Legion, the biblical demon, wants to take over live side and the world by harnessing the power of, you ready for this? Dark Souls.
Hey.
Shadow Man is the original Dark Souls. And so they fucking... You have to go get 120 of them because it's an N64 collectathon platformer, right?
You gotta jump on things and find the things.
That's exactly
gotta do it.
And it's basically like a 3D Metroidvania, because you get different items that let you traverse different areas, and like you can climb up waterfalls, which are blood falls, because it's the 90s.
It's the 90s.
It's the 90s, and it's edgelord. Like it's like all of Deadside is like the walls are made of like stretched skin and fucking shit like that, and you shoot naked zombies that yell at you and all this and like once you get to Asylum, the like fortress that Legion and Jack the Ripper, because Jack the Ripper is one of the bad guys.
Of course he is.
Yeah, he's been reincarnated, and now he wants to take over the world with this Legion guy. You get to like their big fortress, which is Asylum, which is based off the Peter Bruegel painting.
I don't actually know that painting, so I'm gonna have to tell you that.
I don't know if it's called Asylum. I know it's. Let me look it up.
Is it this thing that's on fire?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that. So that's like the
Minnesota fatal burning of the asylum at St. Peter? Maybe that's not it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think I'm looking at the wrong one.
I'll look it up later and show you. But basically, it's the mega dungeon that you keep coming back to throughout the game.
Right.
And the bad guys in it are like these. They have like gimp masks on, and like they make pig sounds, and they have hooks for hands, and it's like just but it's all rendered in like late 1999 polygons. So there's
you've got the super square looking faces, like
yeah.
No, I remember I played a lot of Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2.
Yeah, it looks exactly like
it's
that.
It's like they're like where they've got their little square hands. Square hands.
That's exact. Every character in this has like a square hand with like a textured fist on it.
and when they carry things just sort of stick to their hands.
Yes,
so
that's exactly what it is. And when they talk, their mouths just go while the audio plays. The audio sounds real good in the remaster.
I'm sure.
It looks great. It runs in like 60 FPS and
60 FPS of polygons.
I would hope that a game from 1999 could run in 60 FPS on a Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
All right, this was fun.
It was fun. It makes me.
I don't know if
we
we got anything done, but or
whatever. You can talk to me again some other time if you remember whatever the hell else you wanted to ask me. And yeah, I also, goddamn, at some point I really would like to come visit. It's just that everything is bananas, and
of course the world is on fire at all times.
It's great. It's so good. But we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And maybe once the pandemic is less horrible, like, did you actually end up at PAX Unplugged this year?
No, but that was for, like, scheduling and financial reasons and not...
No, I figured. I still think that, like, when the game's out...
I don't know.
I think that when we release the game, like, for sure, we should try to get on, like, I forget what they call it, but there's an indie game, a tabletop indie games thing where you can, like, have people sign up and play. And I think that would be, we could hang out and run space.
I'm gonna make a big effort for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hopefully, like, stupid global plague, societal collapse nonsense permitting.
Yeah, really.
Don't you just fucking love living in the 21st century? It's so good.
Yeah. We are at the end of the beginning of the 21st century.
Okay, I'm gonna get out of here. It's always nice to talk to you.
Yeah, good to talk to you too. Thanks for listening to the Tidal Wave Games Podcast. You can check out our other content at tidalwavegames.com. Follow us on Twitter at TidalWaveRPG, and if you like what you see, throw us a couple bucks on Patreon at patreon.com/TidalWaveGames. Stay gold.